I can tell you that people here in the Foreign Office and across government have been working very hard over the last 19 months to secure the release of Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, and indeed to solve some other very difficult consular cases in Iran. And we're going to continue to do that. And we will leave absolutely no stone unturned in our efforts to do that.
Pleased by the UK Foreign Secretary may be bearing fruit. There's new hope after his visit to Iran that British-Iranian citizen Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe will be freed after spending almost 2 years in a Tehran jail. Iran's Revolutionary Court convicted her of espionage for helping to stir up riots after elections in 2009. Reports suggest the Iranian government wants to bring her up on more charges, but the court says that's not true, and a scheduled hearing, potentially to extend her sentence, has been postponed. Well, my guest today is Nazanin's husband, Richard Ratcliffe. Richard, good to have you on the program. As the months have tumbled along and your wife's still been in the custody of the Iranians, have you felt more and more that this might have been a terrible misunderstanding, or that they might be using her as a political hostage?
So it's been a long battle for a long time, and obviously I've gone through different phases. I think now I'm hopeful that we could have a solution, and hopefully a solution by Christmas. But yes, no, I've certainly felt that this was about more than us.
Have they demanded anything in return?
No, I mean, obviously Nazanin got taken to court, it was a year ago, last September, got a 5-year sentence, as your report said. And then later on, she was brought with some new charges, and we've been bewildered by it. Who knows what's happening off stage? I know that it's been mystifying for us, and we've been battling very hard, and we're feeling the unfairness of it, obviously.
Yeah, and you say you're optimistic, and it's interesting to hear that, because there was a feeling across the board that Boris Johnson really hurt your chances as a husband, as the father of her daughter. Politically, legally, diplomatically, he messed up by his loose comments recently. What makes you so optimistic after his visit to Iran?
So that's right. The Foreign Secretary's comments were used to justify that second court case, and there was an awful lot of propaganda on Iranian media saying that Nazanin was a spy and that she was training journalists, and the Foreign Secretary revealed it. So it was very important for us that A, he correct that in Parliament, but that B, he then went to Iran to try and make amends and to speak up for her, which he did this weekend. And actually, since he's done that, we've had a series of things that have improved. So, as your report said, she was due to have a court case which got postponed and then got completely cancelled, the court said. She's been allowed to phone me suddenly every day. She's having an extra family visit today. And also, the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Iran said that they're going to be lobbying with the Iranian judiciary to see if a solution can be found on humanitarian grounds. So lots of really positive things happening, and if you ask me why I feel hopeful, well it's right there.
Is she being treated well?
We've had different phases. So at the beginning, she was kept in solitary confinement for 8 months. She went through a very terrible period, and she was on hunger strike, and she confessed to feeling suicidal. So clearly that was a very tough time. Since then, she's at times been given medical treatment, at times that's been withheld, at times she's had family visits, and at times that's been withheld. Right now, she's actually getting access to the doctors when she needs it mostly, and she's, as I say, being allowed to phone me every day, and been allowed to see her daughter, a whole family, in fact, today. So things have improved recently. They weren't always good.
Yeah, and I know you've said categorically that she was not training any journalists. Most people, most countries would not consider that to be espionage, even if she was. So let me ask you, what gave them the impression that she was doing that and not just on a family holiday?
I mean, if I'm blunt, I think at that time there were a number of Iranian citizens, Iranian dual nationals, that'd be Iranian citizens who have a foreign passport, who between February and August of last year were picked up. And in some cases they were businessmen, in some cases they were people who had sort of connections to the outside world. In Nazanin's case, she works for a media charity. There were some academics, and a number of those are still sitting in prison. Now, we've been very very public in our campaigning because I do think it's outrageous, and I've always said it. But I think clearly there was a wider politics that went on, and that wider politics has continued. She was unlucky, I think, is the short answer.
Do you fully and absolutely trust your government's diplomatic efforts in trying to get her home?
So I trust that they're doing their best at this point. I've been quite critical of the British government at points as to whether I thought they were doing enough, certainly whether they were doing enough publicly. I think I've always been more critical of the Iranian authorities in public than the government has. The government has always been sort of softly and very private. And fine, but that hadn't worked after 20 months. I think, we're just an ordinary family, having the British Foreign Secretary go to Iran to raise other issues, but also to raise Nazanin's case. I can't ask for much more than that. So I feel at this moment they're doing everything they can.
And Richard, if members of the Iranian government are watching this interview, what's your message to them?
So my message has been for a long time, look, I think it would just be great if Nazanin could be home for Christmas. She's eligible for early release. She served a third of her sentence under Iranian law. Her lawyer has put in an application for early release. And she's very ill, and she's been assessed by the Iranian Health Commission to see whether she's fit enough to stay in prison. So hopefully that decision can be made within the next few days, and there's a chance that she could be home in time to spend Christmas with her family.
And how's the little one doing?
Yeah, so luckily, in some ways, Gabriella, she's only 3.5, so she was 1 3/4 when that happened. So, and of course, it's like all parents. You miss your children more than sometimes they seem to miss you. So she's with her grandparents. She's too little to understand all that's happening. She's excited about Father Christmas coming and drawing pictures all the time. Even she says she's praying to God to her mummy and daddy are released from prison.
Richard Ratcliffe, the husband of Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, currently being held in Iran. I thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. We wish you all the best.